Welcome back to the channel, guys. I'm Sheldon and this is Behind the Enthusiast. Today we are working on my 2004 Honda CRF450R flat tracker. There might be another practice coming up just before the end of the season, and so in anticipation of that, I'm going to be changing out the handlebar. Now, between all the bikes that I own, I have a variety of setups, riding positions, if you will. And I don't know if the handlebar that I bought with risers is going to be, the perfect setup necessarily for the Honda, but I'm going to compare it, I'm going to test fit it, see how it looks, see how it feels, and cross your fingers, hopefully it works, or else I'm going to have to go back to the drawing board, which I don't really want to do, so let's get into it. First things first, I've got all the parts here. I got these. They are the adapter ones, actually, by Flow. And when I say adapter, I mean 1 1/8. That is what these ones are designed for, because the bar I got happens to be 1 1/8. It is the Street Naked bar. These are the fat bars, as you guys can see. They look pretty nice. I like them personally. And I'll take them out of the bag here for you guys. So it's probably a little bit deceiving. They do look a little bit wide just from the way I'm angling the camera right now. But just so you guys have a comparison, we've got, well, as you guys can see, the grip needs to be replaced or at least pushed back into position. And it's kind of deceiving, to be completely honest. It is a little bit different. However, is it going to be enough? Because I do want a little bit more pullback. I want to be a little bit further back on the bike. And you guys can definitely see here that the angle where the grips are going to be on there, that angle is just a little bit further back. I would say maybe 1 inch at the absolute most. Plus, the risers are actually going to be offset ones. So I know that might not be a lot, but you see where the hole is there? Right there. It is offset, so I'm going to use that to my advantage as well to get a little bit more pullback. Obviously, these are just standard bars, and I know that you guys, if you own one of these bikes anyway, you will probably recognize the fat bar because it is very similar to what is on my DRZ. Yes, fat bar. I believe it might actually be the same one that's on my DRZ, and I like it. Personally, I do like the setup on this bike. However, does it translate well to flat track? So the first thing that you guys want to do is check the width of the bars. Obviously, if you prefer a wider stance bar, which generally they do recommend at flat track, you're probably looking at least 30 inches wide, maybe even more. Now, the bars that are currently on the bike, about 32.5 inches. Now, when I compare it to the new bar, it's about 30.75 inches. So it is a little bit more narrow. However, I can move my hands slightly out to the end of the grip, so I don't actually have to have my hand right up to the inside. I can move it further out, hold it further down at the end, and that's not a big deal. Same thing with the other side. What I've adapted to doing, instead of riding with my hand like this, right over, right? You end up doing this. So you can twist, which allows me to actually, instead of like this and trying to crank my wrist position over like this, now I can obviously do this, or I can move my hand right up to the inside so I get almost push it down even more with this. So I can move my hand up as far as I possibly can go, obviously on the grip. But you can also cut off the end as well, just as long as you're leaving enough room for your controls. And this, as opposed to cranking my wrist, now I'm holding it like this, so I get full open, and I can just rotate my wrist, and I get to drive my hand straight out. I don't have to worry about cranking my wrist at a really weird angle. So I do this, and then I can shove the bike down even more, which is way more beneficial to you when going through the corners. You want to be able to lean the bike right over. So I think with the angle, it is going to be better. So it's time to start disassembling this and switching this over to see if it's actually going to feel good actually sitting on the bike. All right, so just to make things a little bit easier on myself, I'm going to be taking off the number plate just so that it's not tangling up any of the cables. You guys can see just the one screw there, and then there's that little nipple there. That's all that holds this on. Makes this way more open and allows you to move the cables very freely, because now we are going to loosen the clamp, take that top portion off, and then swap over to the new bar and do a test fit. By the way, 8 mil was for the number plate. And now we are using a 10 mil wrench for the clamps. And obviously, once you get this down in this position, you don't have to use the wrench anymore because you have these bolts now exposed, and you can switch over to a socket. Just make sure you guys take the cables out of the little bracket holder there. There's the cable piece, bracket holder, whatever you want to call it. So the cables, I made sure that they didn't get caught on anything. And now these are actually just resting on the wheel. So there's no tension on anything. I'm not pulling on anything because you guys don't want to damage anything when you're test fitting. So now, plus, if I really want to, I can take these bottom sections off and put the new oversized risers on as well to give a true test fit for these new bars. So my arms pretty much straight here. So my arm, forearm here, And then my elbow has a nice bend to it right now. Now with the new bars, they were a little bit higher. I felt like my hand was up more. So it does bring them down a little bit more. So I don't feel like my arms are up too high right now. And the angle of my wrist is slightly different as well. My arm is still more or less straight here. And then, of course, I do have a little bit of that pullback, so I'm going to switch over the risers now to get a true feeling for these bars. Now, if you guys don't have a way to mark the clamps, you can always put a bolt in the front-facing side, just as a reminder. If you are like me, super anal, super particular about how things go back together. Again, that's the forward-facing one. That's how I mark this. All right, so I disassembled everything just enough to have a free bolt and the bottom portion of the clamp. Keep in mind that hole. If you want the bar closer to you, put the hole further away so it sits here, because if you do it with the hole there, this sits more further up. So the hole's aligned right now. Turn around. It's going to be further back, so closer to you. So I'm just going to put this in here. Well, guys, that is the mock-up completely done. It's a little bit deceiving filming this, but the bars do seem pretty good. Got a pretty wide stance. However, they do sit, I think, just a little bit lower. So I might have to just kind of have it sitting up at that angle right there. That would probably be perfect. It's not going to stay there because I don't have it completely tight right now. But I'm thinking this might work. Now, just so you guys have a good visual, the bolt is right there. So this is moved back just a little bit. Just a little bit. So it does change it compared to what I had on there originally, which is just there, sitting on the tire, so I'm not putting any stress on any of the cables. But that's the mock-up. I think I'm gonna run it. I will start disassembling all of these pieces next, taking off all the clamps once I get this other one here. This is just loose, so that one's not in yet. But once I get that one in, I'm gonna double check the bushings. So in case you guys were wondering, if anybody's cringing right now, going, oh no, the bushings, I'm gonna be checking on the handlebar bushings. I might have to replace those. And obviously any of the old hardware down there, I'm not gonna be using any of that because this comes with its own. So the test fit is complete. So now I just have to figure out if I need any additional components, those handlebar bushings. I think I might have to change those out. It was a little bit of a tight squeeze. Everything is pretty dirty and old and kind of rusted, to be honest. So I'm gonna look into that. Maybe I'll order those parts next week if I need them. So I'm gonna do a little bit more farting around, if you will, test fitting this before I make my final decision and button this all up. So that is it. The test fit is complete. I'm pretty happy with the changes that have been made. So realistically, all I have to do now is complete this job and then send it on practice day. Well guys, what did you think of that? Obviously, this is not a complete installation of handlebars. It's not a how to install handlebars. However, it is a how-to on some of the options you guys are going to have, some of the things to take into consideration when changing your handlebars or wanting to change them, test fitting them, all that stuff. Obviously, this is pretty simple. You're just unbolting stuff and bolting stuff back on. If you didn't like it, just put the original stuff back on. But obviously, if you're going to be putting a new set of bars on, you have to check those bushings and other components. Obviously, if you call up the dealership and they say, yeah, we've got those bushings or we can order them, get them here in a few days, you should probably grab them, put those in there if they're looking a little rough, which mine are. So I'm pretty sure I'll end up needing to get new ones. If not, I might just run those just for the one practice, just to at least give the bike a shakedown to see if I actually like it or not. And if I end up switching back, then I will go and put new bushings in because obviously I'm going to be putting a completely different bar on. Well, actually, I'm not going to put the original back on. However, I'm looking at the Kawasaki right now, and to be completely honest, if these fat bars don't work, I might just steal the handlebar off of the Cowie, so the Ninja. I might steal that handlebar because I already have another one. And if that one doesn't work, I still have one more option. So I have a bunch of options for handlebars. So I might just have to steal them from the Ninja, put them on the Honda if these fat bars don't work out for me, which I really hope I don't have to do. But if I do, whatever, it is what it is. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this one, a little bit more behind the scenes on how to tweak your flat track bike just a little bit to make it a little bit more comfortable, a little bit more maneuverable. So if you guys have any comments or questions, leave them down below. And of course, smash that like button so I know that it's working. And last but not least, be sure to subscribe so you guys don't miss out on future content on the channel. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.